A new hand touches the beacon. A new hand touches the beacon.
Hey, babe.
A new hand touches the beacon.
What is up, viewers? Welcome to my new series, Rick's Random Rambles, the show where I talk about a topic and just ramble on about it. Today, we are talking about the wonderful game Skyrim, a world full of Nords, dragons, and sweet rolls, and an entire collection of memes galore. One of them being the most annoying, grating deity of them all, Meridia's Beacon. Per usual, I would talk about how annoying it is, because at any given point you can find this beacon, but this item is actually quite a boon. Let me explain. So for those of you who've not played Skyrim, it is a bit of a role-playing game. You take on the role of a dragonborn, a person that can absorb the souls of dragons and use their power to basically just speak very loudly. You learn different languages, different words of dragon speech to use a thum, or your shout, so that you can use different powerful abilities and whatnot. But you can totally ignore this quest, not warn the Jarl of Whiterun about the dragon, and just wait until you have the dragon scale mail. You can be a rogue, a wizard, a warrior, whatever. You have the option of doing it all. But in this world is certain deities, who the Daedric gods, who more or less are evil, except for one. And it's unfortunate because this one god, who isn't necessarily evil, is the most annoying. As you travel the wonderful world of Skyrim, you'll come across many different bosses. When you defeat them, you usually will have a giant treasure chest full to the brim with loot. However, depending on your luck, you will also get a wonderful little item called Meridia's Beacon. And as soon as your player touches it, this line plays.
A new hand touches the beacon.
Now, if that isn't the most annoying thing on the face of the planet, it really is. A deity named Meridia tells you that you must travel to Mount Kilcreath in order to purge her temple of darkness, of a plague, and blah 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 blah. A typical Skyrim quest. And a lot of people make fun of this item because of how annoying it is and just how useless it is. And it requires you to travel all the way to Mount Kilcreath, which is a bit to the left of Solitude. It's a ways out there. Basically, you start down here, and Solitude's up here. You gotta travel across the map to get to it. But let me tell you something. This item is actually amazing, and here is why. The dungeon that you go into is honestly one of my favorites. Which is really interesting. You head over to Mount Kilcreath and head on over into Kilcreath Temple, Meridia's temple. When you get in there, it is a dark, gloomy type of place where corruption has taken over. As you go in there, you have to guide Meridia's light further and further into the temple. Each time you connect the beams into the temple, the next door opens. So it's a bit of a puzzle. Skyrim's puzzles isn't the most fantastic of things, but it is, they give it a choice. But that, with the temple being all spooky and whatnot and being corrupted by darkness, you run into multiple shades. And the shades are really interesting to fight because they look like skeletons, but they have like this nice little aesthetic. And as far as I can tell, you don't find these suckers anywhere else. They're a cool little dungeon thing that sets them apart from the typical draugrs of every other freaking place in Skyrim. But it gets better. If you are not a sucker for the atmosphere or the cool enemies that you have to fight, you also have loot. In Meridia's temple, you have these desecrated corpses to loot through. There are 43 in this temple. And they're literally right around every corner. They don't do a good job of hiding them. They really should have though, because every corpse has about 50 to 100 gold on them, which is massive. At early levels, this is quite a good amount of cash. And if you manage to loot every single one of them, you can get 1,000 gold to 5,000 and maybe even more because there's so much money on them. That alone is fantastic because Meridia's beacon just has a chance of showing up in any boss chest. Heck, you can pick it up in Bleak Falls Barrow, which is technically, without mods or anything, the first dungeon that you can explore. You can find it in any boss chest. It is fantastic. If you get it at early levels of the game, you have a crap ton of gold at your disposal, which is fantastic because, start with a little gold, get a little better equipment, make things easier. And that isn't even the best thing about this place. Gold is gold, I will give it that. Money makes the Skyrim world go round, but let's talk about the item that you get. The item that you find after you complete the main mission and aid Meridia in cleansing the darkness from her temple is a legendary sword. A legendary sword called Dawnbreaker. Dawnbreaker looks pretty cool, if you ask me. It's really great, and it looks like a flipped version of the Nightingale blade, which I cannot remember what it looks like. I'll put a picture in there. Comparison. They're like flipped versions of each other. It's actually pretty cool because you dual wield these suckers. It's really interesting. But here's why this is great. A base damage of 12, which is okay for a starter sword. But upgrade your one-handed ability and you'll be just fine. But it does a lot more than just that. So what Dawnbreaker can also do is that with every target that you hit, it burns that target for 10 points of fire damage. Fire damage is the best way to go about killing things. But the ability doesn't stop there. If you kill an undead target with this sword, it blows up in a fiery explosion. And if that explosion hits any other undead around it, then that undead either is scared and runs away, or just straight up dies. It straight up can get destroyed by this explosion, which is fantastic. I don't think you guys understand why this sword is important, because literally every single dungeon in Skyrim has undead in it. Draugrs, vampires, skeletons, freaking ghosts too. This weapon affects. So, if you have this and you kill a Draugr and it blows up and there's another Draugr, you don't have to worry about that other Draugr. This weapon is such a good weapon to have at early stages because it will make you exploring dungeons so much easier. And people are just making a meme out of Meridia's beacon when literally it has such a useful weapon right that you can take right at any point of the game. Even when you first start out. The first boss that you kill and you loot his treasure chest could have Meridia's beacon. As soon as you get Meridia's beacon, you go do the dungeon, you get a crap ton of gold, you get a fantastic atmospheric dungeon puzzle thing, and a fantastic weapon that will make every single other dungeon a breeze to get through. So, yeah, this is a fantastic mission to go on, and people are making such a big meme out of Meridia's beacon that they are blind to how good of a early start this can be. So yeah, that's my first episode of Rick's Random Rambles. Guys, if you're playing Skyrim and you have just shoved Meridia's beacon into the far depths of your inventory, think about going and completing the mission. You'll get a crap ton of gold and get some good items as well. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode of Rick's Random Rambles. If you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe. As always, I'm Rick Quasars, and make sure you come back here to see what else I have on the archive. My archives. Blah, I can't speak. I'm done. I'm all fired up now. I'm gonna go play some more Skyrim. Have a good night.